All right, friends. Are we live? I think so. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of the Thursday Night Hang here on the OnoLive channel for the Coffee and Cigars live stream. That's a lot of talking. How y'all doing this week? Hope it's been a good one. I'm back here in the garage like last week. And yeah, it's been good. Actually, the nice thing this week is that it's not as chilly as last week. Last week was kind of surprisingly chilly, right? And actually today was a little bit cool. Like I wore this vest because I was like, it's too chilly for me to sit out in a t-shirt, but it's not too bad, right? It's not too bad, right? How's your week? How's your week? Everything good? I was this past week after the last stream, I went up to the Butler, Pennsylvania area on Friday for a weekend of hand tool haven. Went to a place called hand tool haven, yeah, hand tool haven at the big Butler Fairgrounds. What's up, Tony? How you doing, man? Good to see you. And it was a hand tool woodworking event that I attended with some, well, I mean, they're famous within the hand tool woodworking world, so it's kind of interesting. But had a good time there. Got to meet a lot of people, learn about some things, and then after that, I went up to Ohio for a day, and then came back on Monday. So that was really good. Budge here says, I need to be number one. Well, you know, you're a little bit slow there, my man, a little bit slow. And George Juan's with us. What's going on, man? I'm presumed, and now I am. Excellent, excellent. Oh, by the way, speaking of you, Bud, Bud and I were talking the other day or the other week about chainsaws, and I've been thinking about a chainsaw, and getting a new one. And I actually a while back I bought a Stihl 020 AV, an old one. Like I got one for really cheap. It's kind of in pieces. And I was thinking I'm gonna fix it and learn how to do small engine repair. And that was like maybe 3-4 months ago, which was very optimistic of me. And Bud was like, I got this Oregon chainsaw that's plug-in electric, and it's self-sharpening. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. And I jumped on Facebook Marketplace, and on Friday on the way out to Pittsburgh, I got this $35. I was like, what? Actually, he was asking 35. I said to the guy, hey, would you take 30? He's like, sure. I was like, all right. So now I've got this 18-inch electric chainsaw to muck around with. Now, this particular one, Bud was telling me it's self-sharpening, right? But as you can see, there's no chain on this because I don't know, somewhere along the way, somebody broke the chain, lost the chain. Who knows what happened to the chain? But the sharpening piece is in here. And the chain is, how am I number 3? I know you got to be quickly. You got to be quick, my friend. You got to be quick. And I did buy another chain for it. However, here's the interesting thing. Like the chain, when I was in Ohio, I stopped by Hartville Hardware, which is a huge, like the most incredible hardware store. Like those of you who've been up to Paul B in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, that's pretty large. Like it's pretty impressive. You go there. This place is magnitudes larger, and I mean magnitudes. Like for example, when you walk into the front half of the building, like it's huge, but you don't see what's in the center. You don't see it because it's kind of far. But what's in the center of the building is an 1,800 square foot house inside the hardware store. You're like, what is this craziness? And so while I was there, I went to their chainsaw department and I asked the guy, I said, hey, what's the chainsaw? What's the saw chain for this? And he was like, it's a 62 tooth with, 050 and 3/8 inch. And it's this one. And I was like, I don't know if that's the right one because it was like $22, where the ones I'd seen online were like $50. And I think those come with the sharpener, right? There's a sharpener inside here. George Brightman's with us. What's going on, George? I have my Moonflower in hand. Also, excellent, excellent. Ready to fire it up. I will not use the chainsaw, but there is a device in here, right? So we'll take this off. And see this? This is a sharpener, I think, right? So you turn on and you pull it this way, and somehow it hits the teeth and sharpens it. But I was looking at, so I bought this chain that was like $25, $22. That is not the right stock number, but it is the right specifications. And I was looking at some of the stuff elsewhere online. Turns out there's a little bit of difference in the tooth pattern. So I'm going to find out eventually. I mean, if worse comes to worse, I'll just have a chain that I will not be able to use the onboard sharpener, and eventually I'll buy that sharpener and just have to sharpen that chain by hand, which, it's not the worst. It's not the greatest, but it's also not the worst, right? Rusty's here. What's going on, Rusty? It is the Chainsaw channel now. We're getting ready to go buck wild with the chainsaw here. And we're off at another episode of Hanging with Hand Tool. That's quite a heck of a hand tool right there. But I gave it a test when I got it home, plugged it in, and gave it a little, not gave it a go, but it works. Everything's in good order, except there's no chain on it. So I'm kind of interested to see what happens. So that's kind of my thing. I went to Ohio to get a chain for my chainsaw, and that was pretty much it. I went to a place called Mike's Place. They have an X-Wing fighter jet outside, kind of strange. It's kind of this eclectic kind of eatery just outside of Akron, actually next to Kent State University. I stayed in Kent, Ohio, Sunday night, and they had this burger, massive, like double burger with bacon, and it's called the Sabrina's Friends Burger because it has like not candied, but like sweet fried onions, right? Or apple fried onions with peanut butter on bacon and a burger. Actually, pretty damn good. And I got tater tots with that because that was kind of like they had French fries, but their fries were that battered rubbish. And I was like, I don't want to get upset. Let me just have the tater tots. And I had the tater tots with that. That went well. Mom's with us. What's going on, Mom? How are you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. We're going to be cutting lumber soon. Cutting lumber. Absolutely. Absolutely. What was I thinking about cutting lumber? Oh, I was talking to another friend of mine who's an arborist, and I was like, yeah, man, if you have some logs, he's like, I get some logs every once in a while. I said, I'm going to work a place for you to bring them to, and we're going to do some sawing up there. Straight cut, V cut, punch cut, chainsaw cut. I should use the chainsaw and see if it will cut. I did get the chain. Here it is, the Oregon chain, S62 chain, 18-inch. Yeah, since Sidecar won't sponsor us, why we should definitely go in a different direction. So that brings us, today's cigar is going to be something from Crown Heads that George Brightman gave to me. So thank you, George. I appreciate that. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But of course, since we are, coffee and cigars, we should do some coffee since we just drank coffee last week. We didn't really make anything. So we're going to make something. We're going to use the Raglan roast. I've kind of got a little bit left. I have a little bit more after this, but I'm curious to see how it's going to perform. We're now when was Andrew in New Zealand? That was back in February. So now we're talking several months away. So how well is the coffee performing after several months? And I think it's going to perform perfectly fine. We're going to use the Clever Brewer coarse ground coffee. And here you can see 24 grams for a 12-ounce cup. Still has very pleasant aromatics, so that's very nice. Good evening to you too, Rusty. All right, let's see here. We've got our timer running there, so 8:35. We're just going to add water. We shouldn't have much blooming because the coffee should have been fully degassed, and yeah, we're not getting. Oh, there's a little bit of bubbly. Surprising. This is one thing that I try to impart on the morning show on the main channel, is that, look at this. We just made coffee. We're making coffee. There was not too much fanfare. It doesn't have to be so fanfare-ish, right? Actually, it reminds me, when I was at Hand Tool Haven, there's a YouTuber that whose videos I watch a lot, a guy by the name of Rex Kruger. There were actually two guys, Rex Kruger and James Wright. They each have their own channel on hand tool woodworking. They're very well known in the hand tool woodworking world for their videos, for their YouTube channels. And I was hanging out with Rex, right? We're all sitting down for dinner, just talking, and we're talking, and he just had some things he was saying about how, for example, James Wright is very much, the whole woodworking and YouTube is all encompassing in his life, right? There's no separation. His family's involved, everything. It's always part of him. Whereas Rex is like, well, I keep it all separate. Like I have my family time, and I have my work, which means the woodworking and the woodworking on YouTube is his work, right? So I thought it was kind of an interesting. I was like, this is a guy that must not watch any YouTube videos about woodworking at all, wants to have nothing to do with it outside of his working environment, right? And I'm kind of like, yeah, that's kind of how I am. I can be about like that about like when it comes to coffee. It's like I don't really watch YouTube coffee, right? It's I know those of you who may be watching YouTube coffee might hear that and think, well, that's kind of crazy. But like, I when he was talking about that, I was like, I totally get where you're coming from there, bro. I totally get it. So we're rolling here. The coffee's cooking, and you don't have to do too much with it, right? Just like I like this brewer because it just puts it in there. You let it go. You don't have to do anything. God knows I don't want to make it more complex than it is. Like on this morning show and tomorrow morning show, we were doing the siphon, right? The vac pot, which is a brewing style that I really love. However, it's very complicated. It's very like encompassing, meaning that when you're brewing with it, you have to give it your full attention and like you really want to get everything correct, like the dosing, the temperature, the timing, everything you want to be just right. So you get really the optimum results. And if I'm brewing like that, then it's like, you got to really give your attention to it, which can be exhausting, right? You're like, oh, I just would like, when you could do something like this and just kind of wait. And all I'm doing right now, oh, here it is, 11:30. So I put it in at 8:34 on the show timer. And now it's 11:37 on the show timer. And now all I have to do is take this, put it there. And I've done nothing. And I can have lovely quality coffee, right? To me, the whole battle with coffee is buying quality coffee. Like that's if you buy quality coffee from a reputable source, you have fought most of your battle. Most of your battle is finished. Now all you have to do is just, use the right quantity, use the right size grind particulate, and put the right temperature of water. And you should be having wonderful tasting coffee with very little effort. Like, there's a lot of guys like on YouTube or even in my coffee profession, right? My peers, you know, in the business, you'll see them and they're super precious, right? They're always, you can do that and you totally can get great results by being super precious. Or you can do something like this and still get fabulous results with relatively no effort. George says, I'm being blocked because I mentioned the Kent State. Did you mention the Kent State? I don't see any comment. I see we're offering another hanging with hand tools. Hey, Mom. I did not see anything about Kent State until you asked because I mentioned the Kent State. Did you mention Kent State? Well, Kent State. I was thinking about that while I was there. Like I was thinking I should go visit the spot where the National Guard killed those students for protesting against the war. Okay, the coffee's nice. Still solid, nice, rounded flavor, good, warm, tasty, a little bit sweet. Everything you want to. And a coffee to accompany cigars. George is asking, can we figure out how to use a chainsaw to grind beans? Let's combine woodworking. I don't have a chainsaw set up actually. Oh, actually I do. Let's see. Can we? I do have one small chainsaw around here somewhere. I have my little pruning chainsaw by DeWalt. This is a pretty nice one. It's 20 volts, so really easy. So it's very easy to use. 8-inch bar. The problem with this one, it leaks the chainsaw oil a lot. But, it actually works really well. Like, I really use this. I've been using this quite a bit for, like, cutting smaller stuff. But I don't know. Can we cut we're not going to cut the cigar on that. There's too much chainsaw oil and detritus on it to worry about that. And it blocked me again when I retyped my comment. That's very interesting. I wonder why. I wonder if there's some kind of setting. And I don't want to risk getting out of it. Send feedback. Tony says that I'm sure the bar would add a lovely flavor to your coffee experience. No doubt. No doubt. I'll try to remember, George, when we finish here to look up and see if the YouTube system sends me a notification that certain comments were blocked. I don't know. Kent State PM May the 4th. May the 4th. Was that it was on May 4th when it happened? I don't know the date. Yeah, that was some BS. Actually, that was before I was born. Like that was 1969. Is that correct? Is that correct? I think it was 1969. And that stuff still continues today. But yeah, that was what I did over the weekend. What'd you guys do? Anything over the weekend interesting happening? This weekend, there's supposed to be a tool swap at the local Woodcraft here in Timonium. Although when I was there yesterday, they were talking about maybe it might have to be postponed because of the rain, which it probably should be because it looks like it's going to rain nonstop. Like it's been raining most of today here in Baltimore. Brian's with us. What's going on, Brian? How was your trip? Was it good? Did you get to stop by the barbecue place we talked about that I suggested? Either of the two? George says he thought of it because you mentioned the guy had an X-Wing fighter outside. Yeah, it's a place called Mike's Place. Mike's Place is a very eclectic kind of diner. Actually, I was at the hotel and I was thinking, where should I get dinner? And I was like, let me look up some places. And I was like, what's really kind of interesting here in Ohio? And I asked the girl downstairs, I said, what's good to eat? She's like, well, there's a place called Mike's Place that's nearby. I said, what kind of food? It's like American food. And I was like, so I looked it up and I was like, ooh, looks kind of looks interesting, right? And the food was good. Like I enjoyed the burger and the tater tots. It was very good. It was a Pepsi house, so I didn't like that. I did get unsweetened tea, which actually the unsweetened tea, they must have just made it because it had that natural like brewed tea sweetness that like it was super fresh. I was like, oh, that's really like there are times when I've gone to like in the days when I used to go to Chick-fil-A in the mornings, like at 6 in the morning to get my breakfast before I open the stores. Like if you certain days you went to Chick-fil-A and they had just made the iced tea, man, it was super good, super good. Like that natural sweetness from fresh brewed tea is just such a nice reward. And that's how the tea was at Mike's that on was it Sunday night when I was there. And yeah. Oh, somebody messaged. Bud says that the chainsaw replacement chain, oh, here it is, $27 really on homedepot.com. I guess I can order that. Although when I click on it, it's not leading me there. What's going on with that? There are Memorial Day deals happening. Oh, I'm not going to look at that. All right, $27. That works. That's a lot better. And the nice thing is that I do have another 18-inch chainsaw, an old Craftsman, so I can use this chain. It has the same spec, so that would be nice. I won't have to burn this one. Although I did find a cheaper one at the restore a couple months ago for it. So it's like just sitting in a box still. So I've got plenty of chains. All right, but what else has been going on? That's pretty much it. That I went there, and then I went to a place called Hartfield Kitchen next to the hardware store. They're like this huge operation, right? And had really great like roast beef and potatoes with fried chicken. And they had this thing called broccoli salad, right? And here's the thing: American food is very interesting, and like this like old school American food, like the salads, I always think are kind of funny because as I grew up, we always think of salads, and salads are like healthy, and salads are good for you, and oh man, it's just so much vegetable. And you're like, gosh, what is this? But there's salads there. I asked the hostess, I said, what should I eat? And she's like, I said, what's the best thing here? And she's like, She said, the best things here are the fried chicken and the roast beef. And I was like, how do I get those? She's like, order the roast beef dinner and get a piece of chicken. And that's what I did. And I was like, what side should I get? You get three sides. So she said, get the, she's like, the best things here are the potatoes, the mashed potatoes with the gravy, the noodles, and broccoli salad. So I was like, she's like, do you like broccoli? I said, it doesn't matter what I like. I mean, I don't mind broccoli, but it doesn't matter what like. I just want to know what's great, right? So I ordered that, and she brought it out. The server brought it out to me, and the broccoli salad was super. Actually, I really like the broccoli salad. Imagine taking broccoli heads, florets, and chopping them up. Right, they're all chopped up, and then you take some cauliflower, you chop that up, and then you kind of put it in like the three bean kind of like preserving sauce, so vinegar with sugar, like so it's sweet and a little bit tart, but not too tart, but much more sweet, with some maybe they put some mayo in it or something like that. It had kind of a creaminess to it. Sweet and delicious, but it can't be good for you. Like it just cannot be good health-wise. You're just like, this is this is like true Americana kind of eating. Like this is how Americans get fat. Like this is how we get fat in this country. Like we're eating vegetables, but it's so sugar and calorie laden that it overcomes our bodies of our body will burn energy to consume the vegetables, but it's got enough like sugar and additives to it that it over like let's say it takes 2,000 calories to digest the vegetables. Well, you're eating 3,000 calories, so you're still ahead. So it's like, well, it is delicious. And I was like, I was thinking I should buy more, like a pint of it or a quart of it to take home with me. I forgot to do that at the end of the day. I did go to the bakery and buy like a pie. I bought a strawberry pie, a slice of strawberry pie that I used on on Tuesday's show in the morning. And then I also bought a pumpkin pie because the pumpkin pie was my nephew loves pumpkin pie. So I really bought it for him. And so they had this Mennonite recipe pumpkin pie that has egg whites added to it, so it gets darker and has a custard-like texture. So I was like, well, he might like that. And so I bought that and I brought it to him. And I was actually thinking maybe I should do one for the show so I can have a reference slice of this pumpkin pie so that I'll know what it tastes like. But I was like, you know what kind of cheap ass uncle is going to buy a pie for his nephew, take a slice out of it, and then be like, "Oh, here's your pie." Like, what kind of that would be like? That would be way ghetto. Like, I'm just like, okay, I can't do that. But so I brought it over there the other night, and I was like, oh. And so they were having after they all ate dinner, so I was able to get a bite of the pie just while we were all there. So that was nice. And it is very creamy. Like it is a really well done pie. So I can't complain out of it. And Buddy says that chain comes with a new stone. Gotcha. That's awesome. That's awesome. Tony says, did the Pennsylvania Dutch add cheddar cheese and bacon to that mixer? Oh, yes, they do. They did have that. These guys, I mean, this Hartfield kitchen is kind of an Amish style restaurant. The layout and design of it and the food reminded me a lot of one of my favorite places in Lancaster County, a place called Good and Plenty that's now closed. But very similar, and also that it's got that Americana kind of interior, like when you go to Disney World and Magic Kingdom, and they've got that American president show and that interior of space where it's kind of federal style from like the colonial era interior. It's kind of got that interior, and it's a huge kitchen kind of place, huge dining room. Not a smorgasbord all you can eat, just you order it, but. And then there's a gift shop, and the gift shop is massive. It's kind of got, if those of you from Baltimore, it has a very like, it kind of reminds me of the gift shop of the old Greetings and Readings, but kind of like on steroids in a tourist road trap kind of way. Like it's just massive. It's got all this kitschy stuff. I kind of like glanced through it and I was like, okay, I got to go. I got to get on the road because I got to get back home because it's going to be late. But it was nice. It was nice. It was nice. Still seeing the error try again warning on my post. Oh, yeah, I guess they are blocked. I don't know. I'm not. Send me a text on the phone with what you're putting in so that so that I'll know. I can't do anything about it. But Brian says I didn't make it to the barbecue shops even though I tried. A friend of Maria's really wanted us to go to the Bluffton barbecue joint, which was lackluster. But at least at least owner Bluffton. Oh, that's too bad, man. That Wilbur's is. I really do. What'd you have at Bluffton? At Bluff, did they have the whole hog barbecue at Bluffton? Because the whole hog barbecue at Wilbur's was, at least for me, was transcendental, and it was equally good the two more times that I've been there. Actually, I was just talking to a friend of mine about doing a trip down to Atlanta because to go visit Cirillo, and like actually I was thinking, oh, I should go by there, but then again, if I go to Atlanta, that road trip is nowhere near Eastern Connecticut, North Carolina. So that doesn't matter. All right, so let's move to our cigar. So tonight's cigar is one, like I said, is one that George Brightman gave to me. Thank you, George. I certainly appreciate this. It is the Moonflower by Crowned Heads. And the Moonflower, if you're not familiar, Moonflower is a type of flower that only blooms at night. During the moon, it blooms, and I think it only blooms once a year. And the reason that he made this is because his wife grew moonflowers, right? She raised moonflowers and cultivated them. So I think they bloom only like once a year, or one period of time a year, and then that's it. And then she has to replant new ones. And so this particular cigar is a collaboration with Pepin Garcia and My Father Cigar. They're using a Corojo wrapper from one of the farms that is owned by Pepin, close to Esteli. And it is, of course, as with all cigar manufacturers, Nicaraguan binder, Nicaraguan filler, relatively nondescript. Who knows what that, it doesn't really mean anything. Like, at that point, you might as well not tell us anything. It's just, yeah, it's tobacco. Okay, great, perfect. That's fine. That's fine. It means absolutely, the information other than the Corojo wrapper means pretty much absolutely nothing. So there's that. But we're going to get into that. We got our official humidor of the coffee and cigars here. So this is a more of a Robusto size. There is a Toro shape of this that should be kind of interesting. And it's got I think it has a nice look to it. Like it's got a nice coloration. Right? It comes comes in cello. Just don't break it already. Right. Okay. So let's, oh, here we go. I need glasses. Let us see about, if I wear glasses, my phone does not know who I am. Huh. George says that the thing has completely blocked him. I am seeing if there's any kind of alert in my, let me look it up on another page here. See if inside YouTube Creator Studio, if there's any kind of notification of any kind of aberrant behaviors. Like, I don't really put any settings on the channel typically. So oh, a guy named RP Surge said that he loves the funeral, the Alec Bradley Gatekeeper Toro. Thank you there, Mr. RP Surge. I appreciate that. Content detection. I'm looking through the different settings that let's go to the main page, see if there's any kind of notifications. I don't have any notifications of any kind of problems. Well, anyway, George, I'm not sure what that's all about, or what kind of deal is going on there. I don't really see a way to even check that. But, if it doesn't allow you to drop comments, just drop it here and I will be abreast of all developments. And anyway, I don't have the ability on this system to put the comments on screen anyway, so it's the same either way. I still read them the same way. So, all right. And yes, John Huber at the PCA. You got it straight from John. So the cigar came from John Huber at the PCA. Thank you both, you and John. Thank you, John. Hope you don't hate it. Hope you don't hate me for whatever I might say tonight. Actually, it's interesting. I was Skip Martin, who owns Romacraft. Don't know why I'm telling you all that. You all know that. The posted on his Facebook yesterday. He was commenting about. From what I'm gathering, I think he was commenting about the criticisms of cigars levied by the writers of Half Wheel. And how and you can look it up so I don't have to quote it and misquote him. But the main gist was that you know cigar reviewers are very sensitive to critique about their critiques of other people's cigars, right? And so I thought that was a very truthful statement, right? I think that there are a lot of people that do reviews about things and are critical of things, and this is true whether in cigars or food or coffee or anything like that. When called out upon their processes and methodologies or and their rankings, they get a little bit sensitive. And I get that. And I think everybody gets sensitive about the work they do, right? But I thought that was very. I don't disagree, even though we do this show and I make my proclamations about what is good or what is not good to my personal tastes and in our scoring system. I think that it is expected to for people to be critical of what you do, right? Like if someone was to come here and be like, hey, I think you're wrong. Okay, I get that. But I also think that and part of the reason why and I want to touch on this because part of the reason I wanted to come up with something like this is so that we could bring some level of rigor into what we do. Now, there's always going to be personal biases, right? Like personal bias will always color. Well, there's always it will always. I was gonna say it will always color how we score, right? Which is why if you look at some places like developing palates where they have multiple people, giving scores, they're going to have variations of score because everybody's interpretation is going to be a little bit different or sometimes drastically different. And I think that's very, 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 very real, right? And that's why when we do our discussions here, and I talk about, and I try to be very open about what I like, right? That's why I always talk about my daily driver, so to speak, would be a revenge from Intemperance, Romacraft, because I think it's important for anyone that may be watching or listening or considering what we're talking about here to know where my tastes lie, what I tend to like, what I tend to gravitate towards. Because if they tend to gravitate towards the same things, then that person can be in the thought of like, oh, I might like that more. Or if they like something, if they hate what I like, they can also be of the thought that, oh, well, maybe this guy's a fool and he has no idea what he's talking about, right? But I think the rigorous part for me is the interest is that, can we do this part of it relatively unbiased or relatively balanced week to week, cigar to cigar, so that it has some level of merit, right? To put cigars in a certain order. So my intention with all of this scoring is to try to remove as much of my personal bias as possible because I smoke the Revenges all the time or as much as I possibly can. So would I I go to that all the time. So should that be 95, right? It turns out it's more like 86. But you would think that if I let myself run amok with just my own personal taste, then it would be, you would think that I think we would find the scoring to be skewed. But I think that Skip's comments were, I think very worthy, not and apropos and important for people to say that because I wonder if reviewers can take the attitude of like being untouchable, especially and maybe cigar people, manufacturers or restaurants or whatever are afraid to criticize the critic because they could do a hatchet job on it. And actually, that kind of happened to me back in the day when we started the Spro in Hamden. I had been for the years leading up to that, I had been very critical of a woman by the name of what is her name? Oh, now I can't remember. But she was the critic, the food critic for the Baltimore Sun, and she had been doing it for decades. And then I came along in like the early 2000s, and she's like, and I'm reading her reviews, and I like her work. I like the idea, which is I'm super impressed that in her entire career, nobody in the restaurant business was able to figure out who she was when she came into their shops. That is an incredible feat. But she would go to every place, and every place she liked. Every place was great. And it's like, not every place is going to be great. Not every place is going to be amazing. That's just statistically impossible. There's nothing critical to be said about anything. And it's like, so to my thought, my fear was always like, you could come in and give us laudits. Like if they came to review my place, if you came and gave me laudits, plaudits, that's great. Very nice. But if you've never been critical about anything, what does that even mean to me? Like it means absolutely nothing because the crappiest place is just as good as ours. And we're trying, well, I would like to believe we're trying much harder than the other place. We're putting a lot more effort, a lot more time, a lot more resources into doing what we do than the other place. And we're the same. Like that's to me is like that's a greater insult than like, coming in and like trying and kind of trashing it because, whatever may have gone wrong. And so finally, and people, a lot of her followers hated me, right? So when they found out that I owned Spro, oh, they were like eager to like, get on me, right? To like tear us up. And so she was on vacation one time at one point, and they had a sub in for her, and the sub was the one that came in to Spro and did a review. And so they wrote about it in an article. And this person brought in someone that was in the coffee business for like 13 years. This other woman that was a coffee expert. She owned her own cafe. They came in and they wrote about it, and they totally like, they wrote maybe a hatchet job would be a good way to put it. And I was like, what? If you come in and we fuck up, fair. I'm okay with you telling us that, hey, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you're overstepping here or whatever. I can accept that. But when I was reading the article that they wrote, they were like, this is the person that served us, this is what happened, we didn't like this, he didn't treat us or well. And I was like, and I know I trained everyone personally. And I know the guy that there was only one guy, right, that this could have been. And I was like, this guy is the one. This guy, I know this guy. I trained him. This guy comes from like impeccable background. There was not a scenario that I would imagine that he would have conducted himself in the way that they portrayed it. And so I was like, well, I need to at least investigate. So I went in, I investigated, I talked to my staff, I talked to everybody that worked that day. I figured out when they came in. I found their ticket and got their order and talked to staff, and they told me where they sat, what they ordered, how they acted, what they did, everything about what their interaction. And so finally I came back with a response on the website, and I was like, hey, if you came in and you had this issue, then by all means. But I was so concerned, I looked into it, and these are the facts that I found out. You came in at this time, you sat at this table, you ordered exactly this, you brought these two children. And if you have an expert in the coffee business who's going to evaluate our coffee and say that our coffee is of low quality, but you're basing that evaluation by drinking a flavored latte, that person, and I was like I was a little bit ruthless on them. And I was like, if this person has truly been 13 years in the business, then that person knows that in order for any of us to grade coffee properly, we have a system of doing that. And you can't do that by just, tasting the latte. And I really kind of ripped into that. And if it had been me that was working and they said that about me, I probably would have let it go because it's me. And I know they have an axe to grind with me personally, but you're besmirching my own staffers, right? And I'm like, well, they don't deserve that. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to go toe to toe with these people. And the interesting thing was that, despite having all of her fans hating me, and they really did hate me, like they were like, because I was the kind of person who would come in and be like, hey, I would make commentary in the comments, be like, why are you like, you don't offer, you're never critical. I was super like tough about that. I was like, you're never critical. Everything is great. But if it had been just me, I would be like, all right, that's fine. But if you're gonna trash my staff, then if they deserve it, they would deserve it. But they don't deserve it. Not this guy, not this time. Like if he had told them to piss off and like treated them poorly and kicked them out or whatever, I would have been like, you're right. But it wasn't like that. And so at the end of the day, even some of the people that were vehemently against me, like in the fandom, they were like, these are people that have identified themselves that they hate me. Even some of them were like, well, that does seem suspect. I was like, that's exactly what I wanted. I was like, that's exactly what I wanted, was to bring that doubt into their minds. So yeah. Brian says, if you want to ride, George Shem, if you want to ride up to Tony's, let me know. Well, what's going on at Tony's? Is there some kind of party nobody's invited me to? Is that what's going on here? Brian says that Rusty's tonight's girls pulled the top of Humidor. That's right, Ben. That's right. It is awesome, man. It is an awesome thing. Love it. Love it. Off my computer, trying on the phone now. Well, it looks like you're doing all right now. Will the cigar lit before 9 o'clock? I'm trying to find a way to stretch it out so that, this is a pretty short cigar. But fine. Since, the pressure's on, we better get into it now. All right, here it is. You know what I see? I forgot that it's never so nice with the bright light behind us. Because the computer air, that's much nicer. That's a better color balance. Okay, so here we go. Here's our cigar. It's a lot darker in tone than it looks like in this image, right? It's much more washed out, but it's actually got a nice, rich brown tone. Like a light barnyard aromatic to it. Kind of more medium in intensity for the fragrance. All right, we're gonna cut now. We're using the cutter from Craig. Thank you, Craig. I met some Canadians, this past weekend. Very nice people. Canadians are always very nice. So there's our cut. George says, now I have no video. Really? No video? Is that, I don't know if anybody else is missing video. Hopefully we won't have any transmission issues like we did last week. Okay, so the draw is nice. A good amount of resistance. Yeah, perfectly fine. I mean, it's very nice. It's a very good, I'll say 8.5. Easy enough. Oh, we need light. We need light. Light Aziz. Where is my lighter? I thought I brought my, here we are, matches. JC Newman matches from George Brightman again. Are these JC Newman or Kaya JC Newman? Tony says he's wrapping up a La Maestranza Toro and a Diet Tray Pepsi. Excellent. What is everybody smoking? George, I imagine that you're doing a foundation of some sort. You know, the other day when I was in Ohio, Monday night or Sunday night, I kind of was like, I should have a cigar. So I went outside. I brought along one of these that Robusto what's that one from Pete that is normally a Lancero? Anyway, brought that with me. Sat outside the hotel, lit it up, and I hated it. Like I just hated that entire cigar. Not because the cigar was bad, not because the cigar had any real problems. For whatever reason that night, my palate was just completely off. Maybe it was that burger that I ate or something, but God, I hated every moment of that cigar. I was just like, the flavors just didn't gel with me. And I'm just like, and I was uncomfortable in the seat that they had at this stupid, like, smoking section. It was a bit disappointing. And then on Monday, Cirillo was in town. So he called me up. He's like, hey, man, I'm here. And I was like, well, I'll be back today. So we got together for a cigar. What did I get? I got a Breach of the Peace. It was kind of like one of those things where, okay, I had all of this, like I had a cigar that I didn't enjoy, and I was like, I better have something I'm gonna like. So I had a Breach of the Peace and then a Cro-Magnon. It's like, but I don't know. I think my palate was off those days, so I was just kind of like not grooving with it as much as I would have normally grooved with it. Tony says it the winner. Nice, nice. Oh, George is texting again. Whoops, wrong one. Oh my, no video when I'm on my phone, but I can see. That is just so strange. I wonder what it is that you're doing that it doesn't like. See, I'm sorry that is happening. I really don't have any idea of how I can clear that. For someone that has done YouTube for such a long time, I really don't know how to use it that well. George says, let's try again, smoking my Moonflower while I sip Little Book. Oh, nice, nice. So the Moonflower starting off, good amount of spice, good amount of body. I'd say about medium plus in the body. Spicy, like more black pepper spicy, kind of like what you would think about when you think generally of how modern Nicaraguan cigars have been with that black pepper. It's kind of got that character to it. One thing I'm sensing is that, and really it's maybe testament to Rusty's box here, but the hydration feels really great. Like the way that the smoke is coming onto the tongue, and then the way that the texture, softness or resistance of the cigar feels on the against the teeth and the lips. Like, gosh, that is starting off really, really nicely. Rusty says, I heard the latest Little Book is really good. Oh, is the Little Book a cigar? I'm not familiar with that. Oh, when I said Little Book, oh, that's the whiskey. Sorry, I see. Brian's having a Tatuai red label from 2010. Oh, nice. Nice. George says, too early to judge body. I don't know. I mean, that's the sensation I'm getting now. May change. Both recent batches are excellent of the little book. Oh, nice. Who makes the little book? Yeah, the smoke production is very nice. Actually, it's very enjoyable. The sensation of the smoking is very enjoyable at this point. Bookers. Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Actually, as it's starting off, I am liking it. I'm now getting a little bit of cacao, like an undertone of cacao. Not chocolate, but more that like dry kind of cacao powder. Rusty said, I had a cigar when I got home earlier, the Espinosa Wasabi Lancero. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Was it spicy? Is that why they call it wasabi? Or was it wasabi? I don't know how I remember that. Oh yeah, this is nice. Where do you smoke your cigars, Rusty? Are you out on the porch typically? This weekend, like I said, there's a tool swap happening at Woodcraft that they may postpone because it's supposed to rain. I'm kind of hoping that it rains, so they postpone it because I was originally going to go to this place up in Pennsylvania, like north of Philadelphia in Huntington Valley, because they're having a demo day for the Mafel, which is another like tool manufacturer of like saws, and I was like, I need to go. I need to go check that out. George Sem says, enjoying the LCA vintage, the Crook, paired with a dirty vodka martini with blue cheese stuffed. Oh, nice, dude. That sounds very fancy. I'm curious though, as you go and you're smoking the cigar and you are eating into the olives. Does the olives and blue when it happens, does the olives and blue cheese clash with your cigar or complement it? That seems like a very unusual like combination of flavors that seems to me potential for like clashing. Rusty says it looked like a candela, but it did have a spicy side to it on the porch. Okay. But I thought you were working at a new job, right? Had that started already, or you just not, or you get done earlier on Thursdays? Because usually you start coming joining us right around now. And Brian thinks a dirty martini would be great. Nice. I mean, that saltiness of the olives would be good. So far, the cigar's starting off very nicely. Like the flavor of the cigar, I think right now, the best way that I can describe it, which I personally think is a terrible way to describe it, not even a very good way to describe it. The flavors are, I get it. The way that I think about it is that the flavors are dry. And that may sound pejorative, but it's not really meant to be pejorative. It's just that it's a conglomeration of flavors, not a melange, but a conglomeration of flavors that comes off dryly on the palate. Not dry like a tannic dryness, but just dry on the palate, just kind of like a whole complete conglomeration of flavor that's not terribly like, pronounced in any individual way. just like a dry flavor on it. Very, very nice. Very nice, though. Like actually, the sensation that I'm getting, or the sensation that I'm feeling from this cigar, is one that I find akin to my relationship with like the revenge. Is that I'm it's a conglomeration of flavor that's very dry. It's kind of wholesome. It's not terribly pronounced. The body is kind of, full, medium full, but reserved. Right? Whereas, like, let's say that revenge comes at you and is dark and brooding. This is not like that. This is much more reserved. It's much more wholesome. It's much more. It's complete in a different way. But my sensation, my desire, is to puff on it really hard, like a lot, fast. Like I'm enjoying it enough that I'm like I don't want to continue on. Like I'm having a very positive reaction to it. George One says that the blue cheese olives don't work with the Sumatra wrappers, mix badly with the olives. Other wrappers don't bother me. Okay, okay. But does that mean that yours has a Sumatra wrapper or a different wrapper? Rusty says, I did start the new job about a month ago, but I only work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and schools till schools end. So basically working 7 days for the next month. Oof. Oof. Brian says, George, two, have you tried any of the James made gin? And George Brightman says, my Moonflower is smoking cool and herbal. Oh, herbal. Maybe that could be it. Almost a dirty floral flavor. Again, nothing pejorative. Yeah, definitely nothing pejorative. Definitely nothing pejorative. Rusty says, the new job is going well, but completely different from places I've cooked before. It's turn and burn in regards to getting orders in. And what's the kind of food that you're cooking there? Is it more of like a griddle kind of place, or is it more fine dining or kind of quick serve? Like maybe it's quick serve because you're saying turn and burn, but I guess more like is it QSR kind of place, or is it yeah, plating and all that? Had a little bit of a down turn this week. One of my old friends went missing on Monday. So yesterday, people were finally noticing that he had gone missing, and they started putting out, alerts to people, call to actions, and some people found him yesterday. I guess yesterday, or maybe they started doing it Tuesday or Wednesday. Today, yeah, Tuesday, and then Wednesday they found him, and he had killed himself. So it's been a little bit of a strange thought. Like I haven't said anything anywhere on social media about it. A lot of my friends have, but I'm like, eh. It's one of those things where it's a friend of mine who I've known for a very long time, quite a bit, a little bit younger, quite a bit younger than us, right? But I don't know, we hadn't been close or anything over the last 15 years, but I would see him every once in a while, and the times that did see him in the past, which is now is like 4 years ago. Is that right? 4 years? Yeah. Oh, 3 years ago. 3 years ago. He always seemed melancholy, right? But overall, okay, but just kind of melancholy. When I think about it now, it's melancholy. But he went missing Monday morning and must have driven up to Parkton, parked his car, took some kind of poison. I presume that he poisoned the environment of his car because evidently whoever found him, or that when the police went to go find when the police were called and they went to his car, he had evidently taped a notice to the window that says "Do not open" because it's a poisoned environment. And You sometimes wonder like what leads someone to go to that solution for whatever issues they may be facing. But actually, I do understand. But it's something that and it's sad because I think about his family, his brother, his parents. They were all not very close. They were actually kind of tough on him, and tough on him in not a very good way. So they were pretty much estranged for many, many years. So it's kind of like you think about it now. It's like he must have he lives in a world where he had a lot of friends, but no one super, and very few that are super close, and probably very few that are that he would be comfortable enough to come to and discuss issues. And I think that's a very tough thing for people, for most people, for people of our generation. I think it's a very difficult thing because when I look at my nieces and nephews and this younger generation that our generation likes to criticize, right? And say, they're weak, they're soft, they can't do anything. What's the future going to bring? I always remember that when our generation was young, we were the loser generation, right? The older generations thought we would never amount to anything. We would never do anything. We would always muck things up. Can't say they were wrong, but we come from a time when, like, especially men, guys, don't have the luxury to speak for fear of being ridiculed and thought as being weak. And so it puts, men of our generation in very difficult positions, right? We have to put on a show in many respects, to be strong, to be whatever. And that's true whether it's with amongst our peers, our friends, family, even like within relationships. You have to put on a certain way. And in many respects, there's no way out. So I do wonder what kind of issues he faced in the last 15 years that would have led to this decision. And in our cigar world, we had another person we knew that did something similar. So thanks, Devin. But it is a loss. It is a loss. It's a sad loss. But it's one that you wonder. I was sitting the last 24 hours. I've been wondering, like, was there something I could have done? Right. This is someone that I know personally, someone I've known for decades. The truth is, like, there's nothing I could have done. Like, we're not even we're barely in any communication at all. So I would not have been someone that he probably wouldn't feel that he could turn to me. Although, I wish he did. I would have been very open to him. Someone that I've known for a long time that I feel that I've always kept my hand out to him. But there was a time when, for whatever reason, his girlfriend, who's there still with, they were still together till the end, somehow got into her mind that we were adversaries for some reason. So she came out at me one quite a few years ago, just outright like hostile. And I was like, well, where's this coming from and why? Right. And I can be relatively vicious about things. Like, she's like, you know, posting something on Facebook about me. And I was kind of like, well, does this, my only response was like, well, I guess this means I won't get a Christmas card this year. Right. So it's just kind of like, well, I can't control what you feel. You didn't come to me with whatever issue you might have, or whatever issue you think that you have with me, or that you think that I might have with you, but I don't have any issue. And so, she drugged that out. And, when they came to an event that my family was hosting at one time, which was the last time I saw them. And, this was after all of that. So I was kind of like, I personally, had anyone asked me, I would have been, well, at that event, I would never have said anything. I would never have invited them to begin with because of that incident, right? But they were there, and I was one of the hosting people, so I was like very gracious, very welcoming, because I really don't have any issue, you know. But I do feel bad for her. Like, she's, whatever situation they had, like, evidently her brother died recently, and so now my friend died, and now she's all alone. So whatever she had is now gone, and now has to live with all of this wreckage. It's really kind of sad. Like, it's not sad. It's tragic. It's tragic. But Rusty says it's called the Barnyard, where they are a burger and chicken joint. Oh, that sounds kind of fun. And George Brightman says, I'm not really a big gin guy, but until late summer hits, I've heard good things about the James May gin. Oh, nice. Oh, Devin's with us. Good to see you, Devin. George says loneliness and isolation is epidemic, mostly thanks to social media. No, I don't think that's true. I mean, I think maybe social media can exacerbate certain things of social media for people, that they have to project online a certain lifestyle that is completely fabricated. And the truth is that even in my own social media over the last 15, 20 years, or whatever, however many years it's been, it is a fabrication. It's completely a fabrication, right? It's meant to look a certain way. But at least for people of our generation, I don't think that it is social media driven. I think it's societal driven, right? Like it is the coffin that we placed ourselves in that, you know, we have certain expectations. Like, guys don't sit around talking about their problems. We're like, how's everything going? Good. How you doing? Fine. Fuck, the whole world is falling apart and everything's good. Shit is going down and everything's, yeah, it's all good, man. Yeah, whatever. Right? So I think in our society, where we have locked ourselves in for a variety of reasons, right? It's a whole, and like I was saying with my niece and nephews, like, I'll go to their school. They go to a school, a quicker school. They're in high school now, right? And I go there and I tell my sister-in-law, I'm totally freaked out to go there. Like, it's just so fucking weird to go to this place, because you know what? You go there and hear all these kids in their teens, in high school, and it's a warm, supportive, mixed environment. Like, you could wear whatever you want, you could do whatever you want, you could express yourself in any way that you possibly could want, and they welcome and support that. It's, compared to my high school years, it's fucking freaking. It's like, it's unbelievable. Like, you're just like, what the fuck? And I say that not because I'm repelled by it, but because I'm in envy. It's like, my high school sucked. I hated every year that I was in high school. I hated my high school. I hated a lot of people that I went to high school with. I still hate them today. Why? Because it was just such a shitty environment, right? Everything about the 80s in high school was shit. And when you look at people from my generation, Gen X, right? And I see these memes all the time, right? And you see Gen X people talking about, our generation was so awesome because, we were latchkey kids. We could do anything, blah, 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 blah. Shut the fuck up, man. The people that were older than us didn't think shit about us. They thought we would fuck shit up. And if we look at the world, we kind of fucked shit up. People of my generation talk about how kids were like, oh, participation trophies and blah, 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 blah. They're weak, whatever. Who are their fucking parents? Us. We're the fucking parents. My generation is the fucking parents of these kids that they bitch about. But there's no accountability. There's no acceptance of responsibility amongst the Generation X. It's all about like, oh, we were awesome. Yeah, we had awesome times. We had great times. We enjoyed it. We made the best of what we got. But I see the kids now, and it's like, you could do what you want and be who you want to be without having to be judged and be hated upon, without being called a fag or a sissy. I mean, it's like, so to me, it's no wonder people are killing themselves. It's just too much. It's hard. It's hard to. Anyway. George says, you're making my point. Social media is society nowadays. Yes, but that's only part of it. The underlying of it all is still, everything that we were raised in. And we were not, and our generation was not raised with social media. We were raised with masculinity. We had to be a certain way. We had to project a certain way of being. You go to your friends and you're like, oh, my shit's fucked up. Nobody wants to hear that, right? Like, for me, that's where the difficulty of, that's the difficulty of being men, right? George Sam says, George Brightman says, and YouTube censoring me because I brought up Kent State is a perfect example of that. George Sam says, my next door neighbor, who was 2 months older than me, became addicted to drugs and murdered her mother. Jesus, every generation has their demon. That's terrible. I mean, one of my customers at Spro, it turns out he had butchered his parents with a hammer when he was young. And I was like, with a hammer. I was like, good God, man. George says, it's hard out there for a pimp. It is, man. If you ever watch a TV show, there's an old documentary that was out back in the 90s, I think, called American Pimp. If you ever get to watch that documentary, I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a guy in there. A pimp who drove around in a Mercedes 500 SEC in Honolulu. He was my neighbor. He lived in my building, and he would have I gotta say, he had some fine women that came through the building. I remember this one girl, I was like, holy God. But yeah, if you ever watch, I forgot his name, but if you ever watch American Pimp, he's in American Pimp. And it's like, when the documentary came out, I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's my neighbor. We never talked. Like, you knew what he did. You'd see him. I don't want to get too involved with that kind of thing. Don Magic Juan. I saw the movie. I don't think it was Don Magic Juan. He had kind of a fuzzy name, like a very pimpy name. I guess, of course, he had a pimp. I just don't. If you say his name, I'll remember. But it wasn't Don Magic Juan. He had jerry curls. He was super classic pimp looking. I was like, respect to you, man. I'm just not getting in your way. For the cigar, I mean, it's actually very nice. I'm really enjoying it. It's not heavy. I mean, it's got good body, but not crazy, right? Got it. Not Fillmore Slim. It was Don Magic Juan. Was it Don Magic Juan? I'll have to see it. But maybe it was. Maybe it was. I just don't. It's been a long time. It's been 30 years since I've even seen that. So, but I mean, he's the only guy in the documentary that was from Honolulu. So that if that was him, that was definitely him. Yeah, he lived at the time. I lived on the 20th floor of this building, and I think he lived at a higher floor. He must have lived on a higher floor. Yeah, but the one girl he had, her name is, her and I were talking one day. Her name was Gidget. Oh, God, she was like, oh. Now you see what I'm saying, says George. It's more medium body than full. Yeah, definitely. Definitely it's toned down from the beginning. But very good. Very good. Thank you. George says it was the Hughes brothers that made that documentary. Oh, was it really? Wasn't the Hughes brothers the ones that also did Poetic Justice? And were they did they also did Boys in the Hood, right? Another classic movie. All right, now there's a little bit of bitterness growing, maybe because I'm pulling on it too much. So I'm going to slow down a little bit. I think the body has been a solid medium. I'm going to say 8.5 for the body. Flavor, I'm going to say 8.5. But yeah, but back to what I was saying before, like, I think that we as men are stuck in a world. But if you're someone that knows me and you need to speak about whatever, you can come to me at any time. Anytime. Oh, John Singleton mean Boys in the Hood. Okay, okay. Oh yeah, you're right. You're totally right. Brian's asking if Steve's out here yet. Is Steve still in the Philippines or is he back yet? And how was his trip? I'm wondering how his trip went. He must be exhausted. Like this just nonstop while you're there, right? No sleep till Brooklyn kind of activity. I did not get to check any cigar places while I was in Pittsburgh, in Butler. One night, I think it was Saturday, and I was looking at places to go smoke. There was a couple lounges that Cyril recommended to me that were way down inside Pittsburgh, and I was like, I don't feel like driving all the way down to Pittsburgh because even just to there's a place called Leaf and Bean, Club Leaf and Bean, and that was like half an hour drive, and I was like, that's kind of. I was like, I was gonna go at one point, and then I was like, let me double check because I remember the last time I was in the Pittsburgh area, we went to this one place because my friend lives in the suburbs, and I was staying in her place, and we went up to this one place that she knew about. Turns out it was a members only club, and turns out this Club Leaf and Bean was the same place, and so I looked it up online. And I was like, oh, you have to be a member to smoke there. So it was like that would have been a futile trip. Brian says 3 hour time difference. Steve is probably still working. Okay. Oh, he's back. Okay, okay. Was he there for just a week or was he there for like 2 weeks? I mean, a week is brutal. If it's just a week, like the problem with like traveling like that is that you go to some place and in my experience when you travel, there's that whole circadic whatever biorhythm thing that your body has to get used to. And in my experience has been where for every hour of time change, it takes you a day to adjust to an hour, right? So 1 hour. So if you go somewhere that's 6 hours different, it'll take you 6 days to adjust to that time zone. So when I would do trips to like Asia, which is like 12 hours from here, it would take nearly 2 weeks to fully like adjust. And like anything short of 2 week trips was like brutal because it's like you go there, you're starting to adjust, you're struggling. Like for me, it was always like it'd be fine. Most of the day would be fine. Then I hit 5 o'clock, like especially if I'm in Asia, at 5 o'clock, it's like you hit a wall. And I'm like, oh God, I can't make it. So for like from 5 to like 7, those 2 hours were like brutal. But once you got past 7, or once you got past 6:30, you could then run till 2 in the morning, at least in my experience. But man, it's tough. It's tough when you have to go back and forth. Like 10 days. Oh yeah, 10 days. And he's probably, and so in 10 days, he probably, yeah, he's probably there 10 days. He's just starting to, he's just starting to adapt to the time, and then he flies home and then has to adapt again. So he's in the middle of struggling to return to time zone. Especially since those 10 days, you're all kind of busy. And I mean busy. George Brightman says if I don't die by 7, I'll be rolling by 8. Oh, in the evenings, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, but I would be working with people because we're still doing stuff usually at 5, 6 o'clock, and it's like I would be sitting there sometimes like, yeah, this is good. This is good. It really is that conglomeration of flavors. Like it's really just kind of a composed whole rather than individual flavors identifying themselves, which I'm really finding that to be enjoyable. George says, score your Moonflower. I don't think we're to the point of doing the second third yet. We still have a little bit longer to go before I should write that second. But right now we're still at 8.5s for the first 3 categories, which it totals up to 25.5, which is very solid performance, I think. Very solid performance. I would suspect, not knowing anything, that we're going to be somewhere around 86 by the end of this. As long as performance continues. Now, we did have a little bit of combustion issue a little while ago, but I think that's more because I was intending to it as much. So I don't think that's going to take much. I don't think that's really needs to be heavily weighted or anything. One thing I wonder, like when it comes, like thinking about the whole cigar reviewing thing, one thing I think that's maybe unique about this, or unique about cigar review shows that are in similar vein, where the people smoking are doing it live and in totality, right? Like I've seen some videos where people will make videos about their cigar reviews, and they'll kind of like, it'll be like a 10-minute review or maybe 5 minutes or whatever long it is, but it's, condensed and shortened. So they smoke and then they talk about their experience. Where this, I think, when people do this kind of approach, you get to see it in the full in real time. So you get to see the reaction. Which is it better? I don't know if it's better, but I think it's just maybe more informative. I don't know. You tell me what you think about it, or it's probably just something to do while you're having a cigar as well. George Sam says it's time for a nightcap. The Padron 5000. Nice nightcap. Someone is off tomorrow, says Brian. So Brian, how was your trip, man? Was it a good overall? I mean, was it just vacation, or were you there for like fundraising work? Your volunteer work. I mean, I'm presuming that you people go to Hilton Head for recreation rather than work. Brian, George, I mean, George says he wishes. No, he's an educator. He's got to work tomorrow. No rest for the weary, especially for middle school. Yeah, I do. I am enjoying this. Oh, but evident. Back to that critiquing thing and Skip's commentary. There was a there was a clip that the Cigar Hustlers put out that I guess they were interviewing Ben from Half Wheel. I guess it's Ben. I think he's from Half Wheel, and he was talking about how he sounded like he was offended by what Skip had said because he was like, "Well, I've known the guy for a long time, and I couldn't believe that he would think that we could be bought." And I was like, "Well, I mean, it's like just because you know someone for a long time and you have a good rapport with them doesn't mean that they necessarily need to be free of critique of what you do." Like I have a conversation going on with a friend of mine right now where I've been very highly critical of him, highly critical, and I think that's to me that's part of why you're friends with people, that you can be openly critical about what they do or what they do because you have that rapport. Although most people don't really survive that. Brian says he was just hanging out, had loads of fun in Bluffton. Hilton Head was too white for this pale. I can imagine. I can imagine. I've been to Hilton Head once, and I have my some of my actually I have a group of friends, and they were like, maybe it was a year ago. They were like, we should all do a trip, and they were like, let's all go to Hilton Head, and I was like, yeah, you guys can go to Hilton Head. I'm not going to Hilton Head. They're the same group that's also like that one time they were like, you want to go on a cruise with us? And I was like, no, no, and hell no. Not that I don't mind cruises. Like I've gone on cruises. I've gone on cruises excitedly and had a great time. I've gone on cruises reluctantly and had a great time. But I don't necessarily choose to go on a cruise. Okay, so now we're done with the second third. I think we're going to be done. And I think it's still performing this, very consistently. So I would say for the flavor, 8.5, body still 8.5, still, good medium bodied cigar. Which brings us to 42.5 right now. We're halfway through the scoring. But right now, I mean, if it was to continue on, I mean, I would say we're currently in excellent range of burn and draw as well as consistency. It's starting to feel a little bit heavy just on me, just over time. The taking in of the I guess the nicotine or the cigar. Now it's starting to feel a little bit. My feeling is a little bit heavier. Not necessarily the cigar is heavier, just the buildup is getting heavier. So what do you guys got going on this weekend? Anything good? I don't think we're gonna have any cessation of the rain until after the weekend. Another thing I've been thinking about is I need to get to the farms because I think we should be starting or in the midst of strawberry season, right? So when I went to Boston, I had some of my preserves, my strawberry preserves. I like to make strawberry jam, and I gave my aunt the last 2 jars of my strawberry jam because she really enjoyed it. So I was like, "Oh, I'll give it to her so she can have more for her eating." And so now I'm totally out. So I need to like get on it and be cognizant of it because otherwise, like, but when I went to Japan the last time in Asia, 2023, I was traveling this time of the year, and I was gone for like I think I was gone for like a month. So by the time I came back, like mid-July, mid-June, season was over, and I was totally hosed. I was like, there's no more strawberries. It's like, totally missed it. So what I like to do is I like to buy a field case, make jam out of that, and yeah. George says it's another wet Memorial Day weekend. I'm I don't know. I feel like I'm so surprised that it's Memorial Day this weekend. Like, I feel like, isn't the 31st like next weekend? I guess, Memorial Day is Monday, the last Monday in May. So that makes sense. But I was like, man, I feel like it's early. There's a lot of sales going on. Like I saw some notices that Harbor Freight's having a big sale. Lowe's and Home Depot are having big sales. I haven't seen what their wares are. Although I did get a flyer the other day when I was at Harbor Freight. Last weekend, Harbor Freight was giving away free buckets. So I was like, I should get another bucket. So I got a free bucket, and they gave me this. Brian says, when referring to running a yellow light, passing through an intersection, ever heard of anyone call it squeezing the lemon? Squeeze 5 lemons to get. I've not heard that. I had one time when I was much younger, and I was still living in Honolulu at the time. And I remember I was coming to a stoplight and it turned yellow and I was going to go through it. And then I decided at the last minute to stop. So I stopped, but the car was like halfway in past the line. And there was a cop car, at the corner, and it pulled me over, gave me a ticket. And I remember I went to I decided I was going to fight it. I was like, I'm going to fight this because I'm going to beat it. Right. And I prepared a defense. Like I spent like a day or a couple of days looking up a defense, preparing a statement, preparing how to present my case to the judge. And we get there. And it turns out part of the reason was that the officer that gave me the ticket was riding with his TRO, his FTO, his field training officer. So he was a rookie. And so turns out his FTO told him to pull me over and all that. And the judge listened to the officer speak, give all the details. He stopped, halfway across the line, did not go through the light. And I'm all ready. Like, I'm all like ready. I'm amped. I'm psyched to like present my case. And the cop talks and I'm all like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And the judge was like, do you want to, he asked me something like, do you want to give a statement? Do you want to do you want to give give your defense? He said, or maybe he said like, you don't want to give your defense, do you? And I was like, well, I am ready, Your Honor. And he was like, I don't think you want to give a defense. Well, I'm kind of ready. I don't think you want to give a defense. I don't want to give a defense. And evidently that was not enough for them to get a conviction because I didn't go through the light. So he was like dismissed. I was like, oh, great. Great result, right? I didn't get a ticket. I walked away scot-free. But I was also very disappointed because I had prepared, I felt that I had prepared a great defense. I forgot what it was, but I was like, I was so ready. And I didn't have my moment for my Matlack performance. I mean, I'm not upset by it, but I was just kind of like, Brian says Saturday we're going to the Baltimore Rhythm basketball game to give the sponsorship. Enjoy the game. Awesome. And then Sunday going to the Elps Camp Barrett fundraiser. Oh, nice. By the way, I meant to message you, Brian, because I was on my trip last weekend, I was thinking, okay, where I looked up because back when the eclipse came, I drove up to Meadville, which is north of Pittsburgh, north of Butler, to get to the eclipse. And on the way there, I saw this Elks Golf Country Club, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" But I couldn't remember what it was, so I kind of like looked on the map, and I was like, try tracing the route I probably took. And it turns out it's the Elks Club in Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania, full on golf course country club. I was like, "Whoa, that is crazy." So Phillipsburg Elks is, I know I'd mentioned to you in the past, but that is the actual Elks Club that has the golf course. So here's the Harbor Freight. They got some interest. I guess they have some interesting stuff. Nothing that I'm necessarily interested in buying. They do have these LED outdoor lights, $17.99, which is, considering the tariffs now, the last year I would see this on sale for like $16. So $1, $2 more, not too bad. I keep thinking that I would like to buy some and then string them between the trees. But then you have to climb high enough to get it and then run the power. So much logistics involved that every time I think about it, it's like, I like the idea, but I'm like, ah. But they got some toolboxes on sale. They got 30% off all Icon wrenches. They got like, what is this? A winch, if you need a winch for your truck. Yeah, toolbox, US General toolboxes are on sale. So kind of, interest if you need anything. I mean, I don't really need anything. So I was just kind of looking at it the other day and I was like, cool. Oh, actually, this parking lot is not till after the weekend. June 1st. It starts June 1st to June 7th. So it's a little bit of time. I got a question for you guys. You guys might know this. When kids graduate from high school and when kids graduate from, well, I guess not college now. They're not college kids. When they graduate from graduate school, what do you give them, like as a graduation gift? Money? Alcohol? I mean, high school you're not going to give out. Well, I guess high school you could give alcohol. It's be very welcome. My cousin's daughter's graduating from high school. She's a party animal. She's the kind of person that had a party at her house, and it was a rager. Like, I mean, it was a rager. Like, remember how when we were young and some people would have total ragers? Like, I didn't think kids of today in modern times did that, but evidently some of them do. Like, my cousin was telling me there were like 300 people at their house. He had to get a shotgun out and rack it to get everybody to leave. It's like, oh man. Like his daughter has just been buck wild. I was like, oh, that's funny. But the other two, one of my friend's kids, they're graduating from dental school and from grad school. So it's like, what do you give? What is a graduation gift like? Like all of them are having graduation parties over the next like 3 weeks. So it's like, I gotta figure that out. I'm just thinking like maybe champagne is a nice champagne is a good way to go. Brian says $500. $500. All right, 500. That is a nice gift. $500. Like that's for graduate school or for high school? It's one of those things that's like, oh, maybe I should be out of town. Oh man, George says that he's been totally locked out for whatever reason. So he's logging off. Sorry to hear that there, George. Good to see you. We'll see you again soon. So far, the cigar is still going very well, very consistent, enjoyable. Feels a little bit, it feels like it's getting a little bit on the bright side this last puff. A little bit of brightness is starting to emerge. We'll see where it goes. Not related, 250. Okay, that reduces it down to 500 or 750 more. Oh, that's a lot. I should go out of town. Brian says college, champagne, and cash. Well, that sounds good. Champagne and cash should be good. I'm not thinking of cold duck, by the way. I'm thinking like something nice, especially for the dental and graduate school. Like that's more, that's like achievements. Breville Toaster says, Devin, I like that, Devin. I like that thinking. By the way, Devin, how was your trip? I presume you're back from your Asia Odyssey. How did it go? Did you have any highlights? I'm very envious that you were traveling there because one of my old friends is having a big party south of Tokyo at the end of October, and he messaged me. He's like, "You should come," and I was like, "I should, I should. I don't know if I will, but I should." Nice toaster, says Brian. Yeah, the Breville's make very nice toast. Breville makes a lot of nice products. Even their coffee machines are not too bad. Like a friend of mine has one of those Breville espresso machines. I was able to pull nice shots on it. Turned out well. And one of my really good friends, she bought a Ninja, the Ninja espresso machine. Makes surprisingly good coffee. I was like, oh, right, luxurious toaster. Nice. See, toaster oven for the dorm room. Well, they're no longer in the dorms, or maybe for the high school graduate. Yeah, she's going to go to college. She's going to go to Gettysburg College. She's an excellent golfer. So the golf team at Gettysburg recruited her. So, like, she could. I think she has the potential to maybe go pro at some point. Like, she's been a natural golf talent since she was like a child. For her, it might be vodka. That's terrible. That's terrible. Should not encourage that kind of thing. Yeah, maybe toaster oven. KMB Golf is with us. What's going on, man? How are you doing? We're doing well here. Doing well. Just enjoying another cigar. We're having the Moonflower by Crown Heads from John Huber. George got these. George got this. George Brightman got this cigar directly from John during the PCA when they were there last month. So actually, I wonder then. Like I mentioned earlier, that the cigar early on in the tonight had a really luxuriant kind of feel to it. Really well hydrated. Now the humidor that I have just holds it well, but I think like since it came from John, it must have like been super fresh and like it's been performing really beautifully. Made for, and actually it's interesting. I was watching he released a video about this on their Instagram. I put a link to it down below in the description, and he was talking about how this is the first cigar that he's collaborated with Pepin Garcia since 2015 when they did the La Maria, which was also a great cigar. That's been discontinued, but this one uses the Corojo wrapper that Pepin grows I forgot the name of the zone, the department that they grow it in, but it's been very nice. Yeah, really great. How is it? Excellent. It's been this cigar that has a, I described it as a conglomeration of flavors, right? So the flavors are unified rather than being individually identified. There have been moments where we've had notes of like cacao powder, and then most recently in the last maybe even the last several puffs, a brightness has started to emerge with it. So it's been a relatively interesting cigar, and because it has a change now, so it's still maintaining some level of dynamism. What are you smoking tonight? Anything of interest? Devin says Japan was amazing, as you'd expect. I smoked a Ruby y Julieta at the Davidoff store in Ginza. Ooh, nice. I have not been to that Davidoff. Actually, I didn't even know they had a Davidoff store there. The only place that I've really smoked in Ginza that was a cigar shop or cigar place was Le Connoisseur. That was nice for the longest time. Like we would go to like places like Le Connoisseur or Havana every once in a while, but most of my cigaring in Tokyo over the last, especially through the 2010s, was typically at Cafe de l'Hambre at the coffee shop, and I was like, coffee and cigars, most epic setting. Sadly, they succumbed to the 2020 Olympics laws where they banned cigar smoking or smoking in general. But evidently, there's still a few old school Kisaten type coffee shops in Japan or in Tokyo that, even though there's a law that says nobody's supposed to smoke, they still allow people to smoke. They're still very old school in that respect. Next time I go, I need to seek those places out. But Devin, how was the coffee places? Any really great coffee places during your travel? Because I know you were in Japan, but then I think you were also going to Korea, or you were in Korea at one point. So any place? Did you get to visit my friend In Young's place in Seoul? She's in the, oh gosh, now I can't remember the name. Gimisa in Songsu. Hers is the one coffee place that I really want to go visit. If I end up going to Japan for that event in October, I might try to hop over for a day to Korea. I mean, it's only like an hour flight from to Seoul. Like I did that one year. I did an overnight trip to Seoul, flew to Gimpo, which is the closer airport. Like the bigger airport's Incheon, but it's like an hour away. Gimpo is a lot closer, so it's a little bit easier to get in and out of the city really fast. Like one trip I was in Korea, flying, I was in there, oh, it was 2015, I think it was. I was there for an event, and I got to the airport, Incheon, which is like an hour away, right? I get to Incheon. I'm in line to check in, and I'm looking, and I usually have a little like folio for my with my passport. And I'm like, son of a bitch, where is this folio? Where is my passport? Then I remembered it's in the safe in my room. It's like, oh God. So I went to the agent. I was like, I need to reschedule to tomorrow because I have no way to go there and come back in time for the flight. I called the hotel. I was like, I left my passport in the safe. Can I get another room? So I come back. All right, come back. That's the worst. That's only happened to me a couple times over the years. Like one time I was I used to travel to Canada, and right after 9/11, so before 9/11, you used to be able to go to Canada willy-nilly, just go. Driver's license, no problem. And it was right after 9/11. I was flying to Toronto. I was a BWI. I get to the airport, check in, and like, "Where's your passport?" And I was like, "Passport? I'm going to Canada. You talk about passport." They're like, "No, you need a passport now." I was like, "What?" Man, had to go home. No, actually, I called someone. I called my brother. I think I called my brother. I said, "Dude, I need you to go get my passport and bring it. Can you bring it here?" Luckily, he was like free, and he's like, "All right." And as you know, Spirit Airlines shut down beginning of the month. That was a little bit wild. Just one day they're operating, the next day you're stuck. I was like, whoa. There's this podcast that I listen to called Rusty is probably familiar with this one. It's called not Food Ideas. What's it called? The one that David Arnold runs. I can't remember, but anyway, one of his co-hosts um, lives in LA, and she was going somewhere that weekend, and she had flown to someplace on Spirit, and it was right before they shut down. It was the day that they were shutting down, or like so they were shutting down that night, and she flew in to her destination like on that Friday. They shut down Friday night or Saturday morning at 3 a.m. And they arrived, and they announced to them that, "Oh, you guys are going to have to we're going to shut down tonight, so you're going to have to find a way home." So she was able to rent a car and drive back to LA, and I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy." Like I think a lot of people got stuck. But there's these guys I follow on YouTube. What's it called? They run a company called Nomadic Airlines. These are the guys that I've been following their YouTube channel for a couple of years now, and there's very few people in the world who have a life or jobs that I wish to God that I had, right? And so these guys are all pilots. They're pilots of decades of experience. And their whole Nomadic Airlines is about transporting aircraft around the world. So a lot of times they do repositioning flights, or they'll be contracted by companies to move aircraft from one location to another somewhere in the world. Like Latam of Chile will have them fly down to Chile, take a plane, fly it to China for conversion, and then come back. And they do a YouTube channel about it. And every time I see, it's called Cockpit Diaries, Cockpit something. But they were tapped by not Spirit, but they were tapped by the wet leasing companies. So there's a whole world of aircraft leasing companies that own the aircraft that many of the airlines operate. So the typical airline does not own all the aircraft that they fly. Some of it, like some big airlines like United, Delta, American, they own some of their aircraft, but they also lease it out. And companies like Spirit, I think, is mostly all um, dry. Well, I think they're called dry leases, because wet leases are when they lease an aircraft, and the wet lease includes the operations of the aircraft, whereas dry leases, they rent the aircraft and then they operate and maintain it. One of my old friends, she is a finance person that ran programs for I think she worked for GE Capital for their airline division, where she was the one that crafted all the contracts for wet and dry leases. Really kind of interesting. But these guys, they fly all kinds of aircraft, and these guys have certifications for, I mean, it seems like they have certifications for practically every aircraft in existence. Like they'll fly 320s, 321 Neos. They'll fly like 737, 747. Well, I don't think they've ever seen them do 747s. They've done like the Dreamliners, 6.7s, 5.7s. I mean, it's like, I just watch their videos. I'm like, man, if I was to trade a life, that would be the one I would trade for. Devin says, I wasn't able to go to some of the places you said, but I figure I'll go next time. But Japan is definitely better coffee and greens on average. Oh, I believe it. And Devin says cooking issues. Thank you. That is exactly. That is if you're interested in cooking and you'd like to listen to a podcast, cooking issues I think is a great one to listen to. I really enjoy listening. I've been listening to Dave talk about food for quite a long time now. I've been meaning to go to his. He's a bartender by trade, but he also was a teach instructor at FCI, French Culinary Institute, for many, many years. And Stasi, his friend and co-host that's in LA that got stuck on Spirit, Nastasia, and him used to teach at FCI. And I only know them from the podcast. I don't know them personally, although I wouldn't mind, meeting them at some point. But they have really interesting conversation about food. But he opened a bar in New York City, and I've been meaning the next time I go to New York, which I think might end up being next month. I plan to go check it out, right? But actually, I don't really like to go to New York anymore. Just a pain, just a pain. But they're actually having this woodworking meeting, and I was like, "Ooh, I would like to go check that out." So I might actually end up going in June for that. So there it is. Oh, they're almost there. Let's go, and I think we can score it out. I think the cigar for both flavor and body have been very consistent. Still very good plus 8.5. Now, Burn and Draw has been very, very good. Excellent. I'll give that a 9. Very, excellent consistency, 9. So we're going to say 18. Now, overall, I mean, I'm going to say we're a very good plus 8.5 for overall. Oh, well, there it is. I said earlier tonight that I felt like as the cigar was performing, it would probably end up around 86. And wow, look at that, 86. So a lot of mostly 8.5s, very good plus through pretty much the entire scoring of flavor category. So very good plus. Then we've got excellence for consistency as well as burn and draw. And the overall score is something that it's not necessarily it's not a average of the scores, but I think it's a score that's informed by the score. So it's one of those things where since we only have 2 categories where we reach excellent, it couldn't be excellent across for the overall. 8.5 that seems much more in line with the experience. So 86 points. That's a really great score. A lot of our cigars here on the show don't really reach the 90s. And I personally think that's probably a good thing because, I think that when you look at a lot of, but I guess it's all the same. If everybody's consistently doing 92, 93, and we do the same cigars, probably somewhere in the upper 80s, probably 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But really enjoyable. The Moonflower by John Huber and Crown Heads. Made for John by Pepin Garcia at My Father Cigar, using a Corojo wrapper from Pepin's farms somewhere in Nicaragua. I can't remember the name. It begins with an N, Nazaranhi or something like that. It's the first time I'd heard about this particular region of Nicaragua. I've never heard of it until today, so it's harder for me to remember. But there it is, 86 for the Moonflower by Crown Heads. Don't know what else there to say. That's pretty much it for this week. Thanks for hanging out with me here on the Thursday Night Hang. We'll be back again next Thursday, 8 p.m. for another round. I've got another special cigar that George gave to me. I'm not sure if we're going to do that next week, or maybe wait till the week after. We're going to find out. But Yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me. Good to see all of you. Always appreciate you being here and hanging out, enjoying the time. If you have ideas for future cigars, let me know what you think. Mom, always good to see you. Brian, Devin, KMB Golf, always good to see you. Bud, everybody. Hope you have a great week and see you next time.